Hey everyone, welcome back to a new video. I hope you had a great day. Let's take a look at some new malicious compliance stories, shall we? The first story is called Boss Wants to Cancel My Leave. My vacation leave credits expire next month, so I requested 5 days off, hoping to go home to my family and get some rest. Only one of them got approved, and it's in the middle of the week, reasoning being that we are short-staffed, as usual. I suddenly had a very bad flare-up of arthritis at the beginning of last week. I could barely sit up, and walking up the stairs to get to my workstation, I work at home, is out of the question. So I took a day off, and my boss said, okay, that's fine, but we are going to have to cancel your vacation leave, since you are going to rest anyway. It's not like I had any rest when I was writhing on my bed in pain. Sprite empowered me, and I managed to get to a hospital with the last of my strength and my boyfriend's help. I felt a lot better, but I was in so much pain in the beginning that my doctor seemed to take pity on me and gave me 5 days rest, and he told me to just contact him if I need more. I was only planning to rest it out for a day or two more, but I ended up having a whole week, or more if I feel like it, to myself, feeling much better. I was even able to go home. The best thing is that it's all paid, since I also have plenty of sick leave credits left and there's nothing they can do about that. The next story is called Don't Pester the Fire Chief. My family comes from a rural farming community in eastern Canada. My grandfather on my father's side, plus his 6 brothers and sister, lobbied our MLA back in 1982 to bring our community a volunteer fire department. With the department came the ability to access a government grant during the summer to hire local students as the department's groundskeeper. My great-uncle, gruncle, and chief firefighter would personally interview any students that applied and oversee them once hired. It was a basic 9-to-5 job, Monday through Friday, with weekends off for 6 weeks. And it mostly included painting the building, trimming the nearby trees, maintaining the fire training house, waxing the engines, etc. These summer grants had and still have very specific rules and regulations that need to be met in order to prevent fraud or embezzlement. One such rule was that anyone hired must work the allotted time that the grant was signed for. If the time was off by a noticeable amount without a valid cause, this would warrant an investigation that could cause the fire department to lose thousands of dollars. It's imperative that anyone employed met these hours, and Grunkle made this very clear to any and all candidates. Grunkle hired a sophomore kid in 1995, who he recalled as Rick. Rick seemed like an upstanding young kid and had what my Grunkle described as a dependable feeling to him. So after a promising interview, Grunkle offered him the job. Rick had one small problem though. He was attending hockey camp for the first week he would be working the grant and asked Grunkle if he could still go to the camp. Grunkle thought it over and figured he could make up the time if he worked on Saturdays when he got back. He would still have Sundays off and fill in the time worked on those weekends as the time for Rick's off week. Rick said that would work, and they shook on it. Rick worked the first 2 weeks as promised, and without any grievances. The kid was attentive, smart, thorough, and polite. Then one day he came and asked Grunkle if he could take an upcoming Saturday off. Grunkle said that he couldn't, because then the grant would end before Rick finished his hours owed. This is where things went wonky. Rick would ask constantly for that Saturday off, almost daily, if not more often. When Grunkle didn't budge, Rick's mother called up Grunkle and asked him on Rick's behalf for the Saturday off. When she too was shut down, Rick's father tried to persuade Grunkle over the phone, and when he failed, both of Rick's parents teamed up at once. Needless to say, Grunkle was getting annoyed. It all came to a head after one particular day. Grunkle would regularly have my granddad and dad on the farm with odds and ends, and their special machine had broken down during a crucial time. It took the 3 of them rocking about 12 hours non-stop to finally get the thing running right. On his walk back to his house, Grunkle was confronted in person by Rick's parents. They kept saying things like, Rick is a young kid and his friends all go swimming on Saturdays. Could you just give him this one day off? Grunkle sternly but politely reminded them that Rick had gotten an entire week off for hockey camp and that he was making back that borrowed time by working Saturdays, but apparently that was different from an actual day off. They kept pleading, borderline demanding Grunkle to give Rick a Saturday off. Fine, Grunkle relented. If he wants the day off, he can have the day off. The two were very happy and promised Rick would be extra grateful when he came in on Monday the following week. No, that won't be necessary. Tell him he has Monday off too, and Tuesday and Wednesday. Better yet, just tell him that he's fired. Their faces dropped like a bag of rocks. Pleads of, "Oh no, you can't do that," and "He doesn't need Saturday, he does need his job," followed suit, but Grunkle had made up his mind. They wanted to pester him for even more time off than he already got. He could have the rest of the summer for all he cared. As fire chief, his decision was absolute, so there wasn't anything that Rick or his family could do. That doesn't mean that they didn't try though. The third story is called, "If you can lean, you can clean." Years ago, I worked at a certain big box pet store with employees in blue shirts and poorly maintained fish tanks. Back then, employees were required to tuck their uniform shirt into their khakis, with an exemption for pregnant female employees, which I was at the time of this occurrence. I worked the registers with my untucked shirt with no issues for a month while I was pregnant. When I was about 8 months pregnant and just a few weeks shy of going on maternity leave, we got a new manager that was painfully clueless and stupid. Isn't that always the way? So one day, this manager calls me and the other main cashier, who was also just as pregnant as I was, into the office, with another manager as a witness, to tell us that we are fine cashiers, but our uniforms are lacking. The other cashier and I had no idea what he was talking about, because we both had our khakis, uniform shirts and black sneakers. Everything was neat and clean. I asked him what he is referring to. He replies that our shirts have to be tucked in. The other cashier and I have both been with the company for a while, and we are both super familiar with the uniform policy. So she and I both object and let him know that pregnant employees are exempt from the tucking policy. He waves his hand at us and says that we are incorrect and that all employees must tuck their shirts. The other manager that is there, acting as a witness, chimes in that we are correct. But the clueless manager cuts the witness manager off and says he knows what the policy is and that previous management was just being lax. They weren't. Pregnant employees were actually exempt. The other cashier and I shrug and leave the office to go tuck our shirts in. The clueless manager left for the day right after talking to us. And here's where the malicious compliance comes in. We tucked our shirts in for sure, but if you aren't familiar with pregnant fashion, you essentially have two options for pants. Option 1 is using a belly band on your existing pants or using pants with a belly band attached already. A belly band is essentially a very wide elastic strap that goes around the baby bump to hold your pants up, which essentially puts the top edge of your pants at your ribs. Option 2 is to do the hairband trick, which is to take an elastic hair tie and loop it through the buttonhole of your pants and around the button of the pants. This gives you a few extra inches of waist room in your pants to accommodate the baby bump and also exposing your underwear. Both options look absolutely ridiculous and are meant to be concealed under a shirt, and they only get more ridiculous the more pregnant you are, which we were both heavily pregnant by this time. So we both rattled gloriously from the back room where we tucked in our shirts looking absurd. I had my shirt tucked into my belly band and the other cashier had hers tucked into her hairband closed pants below her belly and with her leopard print underwear exposed. The clueless manager was already gone for the day, so he was not present to see our magnificent uniform compliance. He wasn't in for another 2 days, so he didn't see our dutiful compliance, but all of our customers and co-workers sure did. Our regulars asked why we had our shirts tucked like that. And of course, we obliged them and explained that the clueless manager insisted we tuck our shirts in to comply with the uniform policy. For 2 full days and part of that first shift after the clueless manager left for the day, customer complaints to corporate about our treatment rolled in and coworkers called the employee hotline to report the clueless manager. The district manager is absolutely furious about the whole thing, which we found out on day 3. On day 3, the return of the clueless manager, he enters the store, sees the other cashier and me with our beautifully ridiculous uniforms and asks why we are dressed like that. You told us to tuck our shirts in. He gets red in the face and beelines to the office. He calls us into the office immediately and starts going off on us for not taking the uniform policy seriously. Mid-tirade, the district manager arrives, furious. She turned to us prego eggs and nicely told us to untuck our shirts and head back out to the floor before turning to the clueless manager. She was going ballistic on him for enforcing something that pregos were exempt from. Turns out the clueless manager ruined the district manager's day off because of all the complaints that came in about 2 pregnant employees forced by a male manager to show their pregnancy attire in public due to an absurd uniform policy. The complaints weren't just about the manager, they were about the company uniform policy as well. The customers didn't know the real policy. And the employee hotline complaints as well. All of these had to be handled by the district manager ASAP, because the sheer number of complaints in such a short time meant that the regional manager was breathing down the district manager's neck to resolve the issue. The district manager forced an apology to us out of clueless manager and treated us to lunch. We also got our stools to sit on at the registers back. The clueless manager took our stools away because if you can lean, you can clean. The clueless manager was sent back to HR training and fired shortly after for another similar violation. I was on maternity leave, so I didn't get to wish him farewell. The last story is called The Green Checkmark. As part of the plan to return to the office, my company has done a lot of redesignation of who can permanently work from home and who can hybrid. I really wanted to work from home full time. I hate the office with a burning passion. It's distracting, it's a long commute, there's no benefit to being there, so on and so forth. I'd just rather be at home. Well, when we found May was going to be the go back to office time, they started giving out the new designations. I got designated as in office full time. It made no sense to me. I work on a team of 8 people and each of us is in a different office somewhere in the country. I've literally never been to an in-person meeting or needed to do in-person work in 3 years at this company. Every single other person on my team got designated to work from home. So I brought it up with my boss and asked to work from home. When I started at this company and lived elsewhere, I got to work from home for 4 months before I moved, and the past 14 months have been at home. So half of my employment at the company has been working from home. What I was told is that I go idle too often in chat to trust to work from home. Basically, we have a company-wide messaging system that shows you as available, idle or in a meeting. If you don't touch your keyboard for 5 minutes, you show as idle. So they have decided to use this as a measure for who is working and who is not. The thing is, like many people in many types of jobs, I don't have things to do for a full 8 hours every single day. The amount of work I have to do on a typical day takes 3 to 5 hours of actual attention. There simply isn't something to do all the time. My performance numbers actually went up working from home. By all objective KPI numbers, I'm a better worker at home. In fact, in the KPIs that I don't flat out lead the team, I come in second. There isn't work to do that I'm neglecting or procrastinating. When something comes up, I simply do it until it's done or until I can't do it anymore due to waiting on someone else, then stop. I've done that method long enough that my work queue stays empty, because I work to get my queue down to the point where when something comes up, I can immediately address it and be done with it. But because I have other ways to spend my time in downtime instead of messing around online at my cube pretending to be working, meaning I show idle more often, I'm a worse worker apparently. I was told if it weren't for that, they would let me work at home. So I wrote a 6-line PowerShell script that virtually inputs the period key every 4 minutes that starts running every day at 8 AM and stops at 5 PM. So now I literally never go idle. I do the same amount of work and still read books, watch TV and play video games on the side. But I have a shiny green check next to my name all day. Because of complications, they eventually said no going back until after Labor Day. I just had a meeting with my boss and he said over this time they've noticed I go idle a lot less than I used to. So they are changing my designation to work from home, all because of our little icon in some software. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button. It really helps in the algorithm. Have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.